Do you like hot men?
Yes.
Do you like attractive women with big hands? What's up, everybody? This is the Sexy Man here, and today I'm bringing you my top 10 list of video game characters that I jerk off to. Number 10, Urgot. Number 9, Uncle
Lumbago.
Lately, there's been a lot of buzz surrounding the upcoming game Stellar Blade and its protagonist Eve. Many gamers are celebrating her provocative design, the exotic outfit she wears, and as a red-blooded male, I can appreciate this as well. Now, I played the demo, it was pretty fun, and I think Stellar Blade is shaping up to be a stellar game. On the flip side, some folk claim this type of character design is harmful because it objectifies women and displays unrealistic body standards and proportions. Now, we could ignore the fact that Eve's design was based off of a real human being, and that's exactly what we're going to do, because complaining on the internet makes me feel better than ordering the salad. But on the real, there is something to say about body standards in media, sexualization in video games, and how it can affect us. It feels kind of dumb to say this, but there is an ongoing debate around how hot video game characters should be. If you make a character too sexy, then it's misogynistic. But if you don't make every female a supermodel with double D honkers, then your game's woke. How are you supposed to win? Well, today that's what we're talking about. Sex appeal in video games. When is it good? When is it bad? How do you tell the difference? Let's find out. Why are games marketed like Stellar Blade? Why are video games now filled with soft porn heroines with ridiculously large breasts? Why? Because fellas like big titty bitches. Next article, write some real fucking news.
He's right.
Shakespeare couldn't have said it better himself. I mean, that's about it. For a long time, gaming was a male-dominated hobby, so naturally, developers made games that appealed to men. This was much more apparent in the olden days where publishers had to rely on the box art to grab your attention. This certainly grabs my attention. Hey, how's that new pinball game coming along? You know, Microsoft needs it out for the Xbox by May. Well, boss, it's looking great. But to be honest, pinball on console is a hard sell. It's kind of boring. So how can we spice it up? Fuck it, like this? Throw some chicks with guns and swords on it. American Pinball Reborn. Rated E for everyone. This might come as a shock to some of you, so brace yourselves. Sex sells in every industry.
I don't believe it!
The same rules that apply to Hollywood and movie stars apply to gaming. People like things that are attractive. They had goddesses stand around and look pretty for the midnight release of Halo 3. Blizzard paid Megan Fox to promote Diablo 4, and that was the best thing that came out of Diablo 4. The developers of a game called Sin Episodes Emergence hired a porn star to cosplay as one of their characters.
Nice.
Sex appeal is an easy way to get the attention of men, but that's nothing new to video games. It wasn't new when Lara Croft debuted with her pyramid breasts, and it's not new with Eve and her ridiculous ponytail. But what has changed is the industry. It's much more complex and diverse now. There are more female gamers than ever before, so how do we sell games to them? Maybe we could push out more dishwashing and cooking simulators? Perhaps we could sexualize women less, portray them in a more realistic, less idealized way.
No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
But I think a better solution is to sexualize men more. Picture this, Ace Attorney 7 drops, and the second case takes place on a beach. This is nothing more than an excuse for BAM! Shirtless Miles Edgeworth. Watch the fangirls go crazy. Instant 1 million copies sold within 24 hours. Capcom, you can send me the royalty checks. But seriously, if there is a major issue around objectifying women in video games, I say go ahead and objectify men too. It's not like we can change the fact that sex sells and companies are gonna use it to sell products. So why not level the playing field a bit? Hot, ripped, muscly men, like me, which way to the beach, appeal to women just as much as they do to gay guys. League of Legends has just as many sexy dudes as it does chicks. I mean, just case in point. There's a tendency for websites such as Kotaku to post articles like Baldur's Gate 3 slyly adds jiggle physics for dicks' balls. They will celebrate when men are sexualized, but not women. If you ask me, that's a little sexist, Kotaku. Lost Ark's depiction of female characters feels a decade out of place. If you're fine with people thirsting over those shirtless Leon Kennedy mods, or the mods where Chris Redfield is just fucking naked for the entirety of Village, then you should also be fine with people thirsting over Lady Dimitrescu. Now to clarify, there is a big difference between what a developer makes and what their audience makes of it. Just ask Jeff Kaplan. But if we held developers responsible for the actions and words of their community, well, the Call of Duty devs would be on trial for crimes against humanity. So this doesn't apply to like multiplayer voice chat stuff. But what, if anything, is wrong with Stellar Blade in particular? Let's check out some articles and see if we can find the answer. IGN France posted a review of the demo, saying mostly positive things about it. However, there was one paragraph people really took issue with. The design of the game, particularly its characters, highlights an obvious bias, and the result is not really a success. It's not new, and other games have chosen to highlight the strengths of their female characters. But where a Bayonetta stands out with an iconic character design, or a 2B inspires an entire generation of cosplayers, Eve from Stellar Blade is just bland. A doll sexualized by someone you would think has never seen a woman.
Is that a woman? Jesus.
There's a lot of problems with this. First off, Eve isn't even sexualized within the context of the game or the events of the demo. Like, she doesn't flirt with anyone. She's not pushing her tits together, leaning over, asking for a ride. She never says like, who wants to have sex with me? It's not even a factor at all. Like, bro, if you want to complain about hypersexualized characters, go play Soul Calibur, okay? Hop into the character creator and you can make your tits super huge. Also, the demo is like an hour long with about 15 minutes of cutscenes. That's not enough time to give like a detailed character assessment or review. So a lot of people are complaining about Stellar Blade at the moment based on assumptions, what they think the game is going to be like when it actually comes out. Comparing Eve to Bayonetta and 2B isn't fair at all, because those are characters that have been around for a long time, and they appear in games that are completed and have been released to the public. Let's try another article though. Developer of Stellar Blade fails to recognize the game's sexism. This was posted before the demo came out. So just based on the 6-minute showcase, there is something striking when you look closely at the images of this aesthetically successful action game. The heroine is ultra sexy. In less than 6 minutes, we see her wearing outfits, each more improbable than the last. The message is clear. The shorter, the more skin visible, the better. Now, I'm not sure what trailer you watched, but there's like maybe 9 seconds of footage where Eve's thighs are partially exposed, but besides that, it's just her arms. Like, where is this explicit, overt sexualization that I seem to be missing? Is every woman in tights supposed to be a sex object? However, we are talking about a character responsible for getting rid of an enemy threat in a post-apocalyptic context. So the old "her outfit isn't practical or realistic" argument sometimes has merit. But I don't think it does with Stellar Blade or Bayonetta. Neither game is going for a realistic setting. Like, if Call of Duty had established itself as a grounded military shooter and then got rid of military factions and threw Nicki Minaj in as a playable character, well, that would be pretty fucking cringe, wouldn't it? Bayonetta is a witch and Eve is an ODST that stole Tracer's spandex. As long as they don't look stupid and they fit within the universe, I don't see either as a problem. Leggings so close to the body that it feels like a second skin. This guy has more problems with the tights industry than he does with the game. That's what leggings are. She has a nice bod and plenty of outfits to customize. Gamers like customizing and playing dress up. Bayonetta is arguably more sexualized, but she's considered a paragon of female representation and strong female characters. So again, what is the actual problem? The character is simply too sexy, man. That's the issue. It's difficult not to see a sexualization of women, a practice which tended to disappear in the latest video game productions. Did you forget what won Game of the Year in 2023?
What I like the most is that every companion is so extremely fuckable. I wanna fuck all of them. I do not only wanna fuck all of them, I wanna be with them forever, for the rest of my life.
However, this choice is 100% assumed by the developer, with arguments that are beyond belief. The director of Stellar Blade attempted to justify the project's irredeemably sexy argument. In terms of design, we focused on the back of the character because players are always facing her when playing. That's what they see the most, so it's very important. We didn't know that a character's charisma is first measured by the perfection of their posterior. Jesus Christ, man, go touch grass. When I play a game, I want to see someone who is prettier than me. I don't want to see someone normal. I want to see an ideal. I think it's important for entertainment, and after all, it is entertainment aimed at an adult audience.
What you say is heresy.
These are the unbelievable arguments. I wanted my video game protagonist to look good. How could you say something so brave yet so controversial? Like, this is sexist now? Well, shit. I don't want to be sexist and play this, so from now on, I'm only playing games with ugly protagonists. Like, they just made a hot protagonist and gave her a bunch of outfits. That's it. And for some, that's the issue. The unrealistic body standards that are detrimental to women who consume this sort of media. And we'll get into that later on. But I want to look at some good and bad examples of sex appeal in video games. You see, it's not whether you sexualize characters in a video game, it's how you do it. Games like Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, Dragon Age Origins, KOTOR, and Mass Effect offer a diverse cast of male and female companions to simp for. And they all feel like real people. Their personality is not solely defined by how sexy they are. You can fuck bears in Baldur's Gate 3 and you can fuck aliens in Mass Effect. There's also options for same-sex romance, and you don't see too many people complaining about that. If you're gay or a little bi-curious or just want to see how those romances can play out, those options exist. They add diversity to a game, an RPG, in a very good way. You know, this old reliable clip is actually relevant to the discussion for once.
I wrote a blog post a while ago about why I f***ing hate video games, because this is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
Wait, this isn't the right video. Yeah, hold on, I gotta switch to... You know what? Fuck it, keep it rolling. Oh my god, shirtless John Marston! But Red Dead 2 is the perfect game to illustrate the power of diversity. And perhaps sex appeal. Because RDR2 appeals to the male and female gaze. Just as you can customize the outfits for Eve, you can do the same with Arthur. There are compilations of women thirsting over Arthur, and all I gotta say is, back off ladies, he's mine.
And then I also just weirdly really liked the, oh my god. Really, I'm so jealous of her. I'm so jealous.
One of our wonderful assistant directors, Gethin Aldous, he says, Raj, we got to do those horse lines again. I was like, why? And he said, well, it's a little too intimate. You know, it sounds like you're not talking to a horse. And I was like, what do you mean? And he played it back, and I was like, you're all right, girl.
And if I can thirst over Sadie Adler like a parched baboon,
Sadie Adler.
Then hell yeah, I hope women who play RDR2 can simp for Arthur Morgan. Again, it comes down to both of these characters feeling like real complex people that you can just inherently find attractive. It's called personality. There's no mystery behind good writing. It boils down to the developer's intentions and goals with their characters and their game. If you want to make a graphic visual novel kind of game, probably don't call it Sex with Hitler. That might be a good start. And there are egregious and what I would consider bad examples of sexualization in video games. Isabella from Dragon Age 2 is just this smelly pirate hooker. Like, that's mostly her character. Now, I'm biased because I'd rather eat goat diarrhea than play Dragon Age 2, but even then, Isabella still has more going on. She's mostly a smelly pirate hooker, but my issues with her character have more to do with the romance system. It isn't just writing. Bad sexualization can be tied to the game mechanics. You want to romance this character? Just hit the icon with the heart on it. You'll be contracting gonorrhea in no time. I don't mind the dialogue wheel on Mass Effect, but when it comes to gaining approval or influence with characters and romancing them in an RPG, I much prefer titles like KOTOR and Dragon Age Origins, because you have to figure out and pick the dialogue option that a character will respond to. You actually have to flirt and rizz them up. You know, maybe there was a Time Splitters Future Perfect joke that went a little too far.
You go first.
Okay.
But the over-sexualization in that game is part parody and part fan service. Personally, I have always found Ivy Valentine's design to be hilarious and over the top, and that has been a topic of debate for a long time. But her design is also iconic. She has earned a place in gaming culture. Some female characters are defined by their sex appeal, while others ride the line in between. Samus is hot, but she's also like a real person, kind of. Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball takes sex appeal to an extreme level, and it's mostly a gimmick, but at the same time, the game was an impressive display of physics. On the other hand, you've got something like the new Fable trailer, which a lot of people reacted negatively to. They blasted the design of this female character, and, well, she does look pretty silly. I think people would have reacted a lot better to this trailer if they had taken the angle of our protagonist is the antithesis of your typical hero, and she's thrust into the role of being a hero. But the trailer doesn't try to tell you that story. This character is just kind of ugly for no real reason. Like in Beautiful Joe, you play as a comic book movie nerd who gets sucked into the movie and has to become a hero, even though he's a fucking nerd. He's the antithesis. That could have worked for Fable, but they don't really tell that story in the trailer. So it comes across like it's made to appeal to the body positivity crowd, and a lot of gamers just don't care for that. I don't think we've seen really bad examples of sexualization in video games in a long time. Custer's Revenge is one of those notoriously awful games, which they hit the double whammy. They were racist and sexist, and they made the game that way deliberately to generate outrage and publicity. Some tactics never go out of style. Duke Nukem Forever is also an awful example because the game was terrible, wasn't worth the wait, and a lot of the jokes just weren't funny.
Power armor is for pussies.
Well, okay.
So it felt outdated. Recent worst example of sexualization, of course, goes to Ride to Hell Retribution. You kill a group of dudes and then immediately start banging a chick with all your clothes on. Women are quite literally an objective in Ride to Hell. Man, that fucking game. But going back to the real issue, body positivity. Unrealistic body standards in video games, and by extension all media. Multiple studies have shown that both women and men feel lower levels of self-esteem when consuming media where characters have that ideal body. Now, you don't really need a study to tell you this, because if you're a dude and you've ever watched 300 and thought, damn, I'm a fat ass, well then you're just like me. But you also probably don't think about what Gerard Butler went through to look that good, in the same way you probably don't think about how much time game developers spend on creating attractive characters, how much concept art and designs they have to create. But the problem with feeling insecure about your body image is an issue that nobody can fix but you. Feeling like your body type is being represented in media is a surface level solution that ignores the real issue. I think a lot of people who write these articles essentially complaining that characters are too sexy, I think that comes from a place of insecurity or just a grift. Every woman on the planet has struggled with her self-image, and to all the ladies watching this right now, you look great without makeup. And every man has struggled with his own physique and confidence. It's pretty funny, there was this tweet, Microsoft urges developers not to create female characters with exaggerated body proportions. And I replied, yes, of course, we wouldn't want any exaggerated body proportions on male characters. It might make us men feel insecure. And if you look at the replies, well, first off, this is the guy who was the art director for Gears of War. Also, I recently reviewed the first Gears of War. You shouldn't watch that video at all. That's how reverse psychology works, right? Okay, sweet. But a lot of people in the replies were like, I aspire to be Marcus Phoenix. I live 7 days a week trying to look like Marcus Phoenix. I must go to the gym more. I'm feeling a strange and sudden urge to hit the gym. The men in Gears of War aren't realistic, but the women are.
Dude, her tits are way too big. That is clearly like a C cup or bigger. Looks like it was made by like a horny 15-year-old, and we're trying to be a little bit more mature than that.
And this goes back to the, do they have realistic outfits or not? And I think Cliff is right. If this lady had huge knockers, it would just kind of distract from the war, you know? But seeing ideal beauty or attractiveness in media or video games, if it makes you feel insecure, you should use those feelings of insecurity to better yourself. Go on a walk, eat healthier food. Ideally, that's what people would do, but that's not always the case. If you're trying to condemn or criticize a piece of media because the characters are sexy and that made you feel bad about yourself, then that sounds like a you problem. I hope you work on that. Lord, grant me the strength to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. None of us can change that sex sells. It's a marketing tool. You can't get rid of it in media or business. So the best thing to do is become the best version of yourself. In my experience, actual sexism in video games happens in voice chat or mostly at the studios. And I think focusing too much on whether this character is too hot or not distracts from the conversations people should be having about how women are treated in the workplace and in the game industry. What's really obnoxious is when people try to Photoshop official character art to be more or less sexy to prove some kind of point. Is it just me or is this shit kind of weird? Like, hey, the marketing for GTA 5 would have been much better if the chick with the cell phone was fatter. What? Why did you do this to Cortana? What? She's a fucking man-made AI. She's not a real person. Are some of these body types really that unrealistic? We live in a world of plastic surgery, for God's sake. Then there was Horizon Forbidden West, where there was like a couple shots in one of the trailers where Aloy looked a little chubby, and some people started freaking out about it. And they were like, well, what would she look like if she slathered a bunch of makeup on her face? I just think obsessing over this kind of stuff isn't healthy. If you're going to obsess over it, then do so in the gym. It's important to note that the problem with this whole debacle is not about Eve's design. The problem is quite simple. A game developer and thousands of internet users are bluntly describing Eve as an ideal woman, the only woman that men want to see. Also, labeling Eve as the only kind of woman men want to see is wrong on so many levels. Dudes will thirst over anything with a pair of tits. Despite having specific outlets for this content, it now needs to be injected into all media to cater solely to them. How is this any different from putting realistic body standards in video games to cater to a different crowd? It's not. What? Company make product because want money? Dove is challenging narrow beauty stereotypes within the games industry with a new campaign that promotes avatars that look like real women. Again, you have to remember that these companies are fucking massive and they're making these decisions because they think it's going to increase revenue. You've got Stellar Blade, which is like, hey, let's lean a little bit into sex appeal to sell the game. And then you've got let's portray women in a normal way to sell the product. And both of these things are fine, but you can't pretend you're better than the opposite side if your end goal is the same: money. Now, some people are only going to care about what Stellar Blade represents in their ongoing culture war, but at the end of the day, what matters most to folk like me is if the game is awesome or bad. Is Eve going to be a flat, lifeless husk? Or an interesting character who just so happens to be a baddie with a gyat that won't quit? In conclusion, Rule 34 has been around for about 20 years. People are going to sexualize your game and your characters even if you don't. Sex appeal in gaming isn't inherently a problem, but there are pretty clear ways of doing it right and doing it wrong. Instead of wasting our energy discussing things that will never change, maybe we should focus on the design and fun factor of the game, if it's visually appealing, or God forbid how women are treated in the actual workplace in the game industry. The recent controversy around Eve and Stellar Blade isn't a new phenomenon. I think it's ridiculous to criticize it for shallow reasons like the character is too hot, it made me feel bad. And it's equally absurd to criticize a protagonist that isn't hot enough. Is the design good or not? Does the character have a reason to look like this? Sure, there are some instances of objectification and bad sexualization in video games, but in my experience, these are pretty rare. Unrealistic characters can affect the average Joe or Jill's self-esteem, but at the end of the day, you have to learn how to be happy with your own image. Nobody can do that for you. Your self-esteem is not the responsibility of some multi-billion-dollar corporation. Sex sells, and you can't fight that truth any more than you can fight gravity. That's the way it is. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. Let me know who you think the sexiest video game character is in the comments below. All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Sexy Man signing out. Peace.